to next section, which is section 5, access control commands. This section, which is section 5, is very essential along with the file management and directory management commands. I would say essential, not important, mainly if you are in a field of data or data engineer or data scientist, somewhere around. Okay, before starting the actual commands, before actually using the commands, let me give some insights about. Well, as of now, we have worked with files, we have worked with directories, in the sense folders. Well, whether it is a file or directory, there are three kinds of permissions, namely read, write, and execute. Obviously, R is used for as a short form for read, and W for short form of write, and X as a short form for execute. Along with the kind of permissions, there are three levels of users. You may be the owner of a file or directory, or you may be belong to the a group, or if you don't belong to any of these two, then obviously you may be belonging to others. Well, let me pose you a question with this information back in mind. Why do we need these kind of permissions? Why do we need these? Different kinds of permission, and what is the reason behind the level of users? Why do we need these levels of users? Well, uh, let's think of a situation like you are at the top of hierarchical position, and as you are at the top, you may be having some confidential details. Let's say these confidential details as let's think of a folder. You have a folder of very confidential details of your employees maybe. As this information is not supposed to be disclosed with everyone, so as you are at the top of the hierarchical position, you obviously you will be having read, write, and execute permission, but a very few next to you in the hierarchical position may be having only read and write permissions for these files or that particular folder which is having confidential details. And when it comes to the top, very bottom of the hierarchical position, obviously they may be having no permissions at all, whether it is read, write, or execute. It is because of the fact that uh, these confidential details cannot be disclosed with everyone. And when it comes to users, let's think that you are in a part of a data field. Merely let's segregate them. You may be a part of data engineer, you may be part of data analytics, or you may be a part of data scientist. Well, obviously, as a data engineer is one who is responsible for orchestrating the data pipelines. They may be having, they obviously having read, write, and execute permissions. And if you are part of data analytics group or a part of data scientist group, you may be having read permission, but very rare cases of write permission, in the sense if if you take that pipeline, data engineers falls on the very start of the pipeline, and the data analytics and data scientists fall under the very end of the pipeline. So if you give the read, not just read but write and execute permissions for the users at the end of the pipeline, then it may cause the data or that particular files to be diluted in some sense. And that is the reason, kind of permissions, and these are the levels of users. Okay, now we have a better understanding, a good understanding about why a level of users, why a kind of permissions, and what are the reason behind it. Okay, what if you want to know, or how we are able to know what kind of permissions each user, or each user in a sense owner, group, and others have, what kind of permissions on particular file or folder. Well, yeah, here I'm at my Kali folder. Okay, let me print my PWD, execute my PWD, which says present working directory. Yeah, I am at desktop on in Kali folder. So yeah, let me use ls to list all the files or folders in the Kali folder. Yeah, I am having a folder and a text file in the Kali folder. So yeah, let me clear that. So in order to know what kind of permissions and each user has, then we go with ls hyphen l. This is the command, or we can say that a keyword ls hyphen l which tells about the permissions. Let's use that on the file name txt. Yeah, here is the this is the command that we used in order to know the permissions, and this is the result that we got from executing that command. So let's break down that. Well, this is the command that we used, ls-l. ls obviously lists the respective files or folders in the present working directory, and if you use -l along with ls, then it means that we are talking about, I mean, permissions and respective permissions for the respective users. And if you mention a particular file path or a folder path, then obviously it will give the results about that particular file, and this is the result that we got. uh, okay, let's break down the result. Let's break down the first part of the result. Yeah, this is the first part of the result, which is as we can treat it as a string of 10 characters, and the very first character talks about whether we are working on directory or whether we are working on file. If it is hyphen, if the first character is hyphen, then it means obviously we are working on a file. And if it is, if the first character is d, then it says that we are working on directory. And the next 9 characters will be segregated, in the sense we'll be treating them as a subset of 3 characters. So the first subset of 3 characters, which is R, W, and X, obviously R refers to read, W refers to write, and X refers to execute. So the first 3 subset of strings, or I mean subset of characters, 3 characters, will talk about the permissions of the owners. So in our case, for this example, we the owner has read, write, and execute permission, and the next subset of 3 characters will talk about permissions for the group user has or have. So yes, again, for our example, the group user from a particular group also has read, write, and execute permission, and the final subset of 3 characters talks about the permissions that others belonging to others have or has. So yeah, again, for our example, others too have the permission to read, write, and execute. Okay, let's talk about the next part of the result. Yeah, after this, after the string of 10 characters which we have discussed right now, after this result of 10 characters, we obviously getting a result of a digit. So it has some significance, but it doesn't make any sense right now, so let's not bother about that. Let's just ignore that digit right now. And the next string will be talking about the user. It is the title or name of the user. In my case, it is my name, in the sense user, owner. And the next title will be of a group, in the sense as I am using my personal computer, the owner and the group name will be same. Yeah, the first title will be talking about owner, name of the owner, and the second title will be talking about a group name, it will be actually. And and definitely the next will be of type, next will be of a digit. It talks about others. It is obviously always be a digit. And next it will be a timestamp which represents when we have executed the particular command. For my example, I have executed that on September 26th at 2:47, and obviously this is the name of the file on which we have executed that command. Okay, what if you want to know about entire, I mean, entire folders or files that are present in the present working directory? So yeah, well, I am at my Kali folder in the desktop. So let's use ls. I have a file and a folder. So let's know about the kind of permissions that these two file, I mean a folder and file commonly has. So for that, let me use ls-l. That's it. If it doesn't provide any path, then it will obviously give the results about the present working directory. So let me press enter. Yeah, Here you can see that the very first character is D, which tells that this is a directory, folder is a directory. And for the second result, the first character is hyphen, which says that this is not a folder, this is a file. So yeah, if you want to know about the permissions of all the files and folders present in present working directory, then you can use ls hyphen l. Yeah. Okay, as of now, we know how to know whether what kind of permissions this particular file and folder has. So if you want to know, what if you want to change the respective permissions? So let me clear that. Sorry. So yeah, what if you want to change the permission? Okay, for that we have a specific command. Let's discuss that. This is the command that I am talking about. Chmod and some syntax. So chmod, which is abbreviated for change mode, and the very first character tells about whether we are talking about user, group, or others. If you specify you as a first character, then it means the owner, you are talking about the owner. If you specify G, then it means obviously group, and if you are specifying O, then it means others. If you want to combinedly, grant or revoke the permissions, then for all the users, then you can use A for all. And the next character talks about whether you are revoking the permission or whether you are granting the permission. If you use hyphen or minus, we can say, then it means you are revoking the permissions. But if you are using plus, then it means you are granting the permission. So after that, the next character talks about whether you are mentioning, granting or revoking the which kind of permission, in the sense whether you are talking about read or write or execution permissions. And obviously next followed by a file path, obviously. So with this knowledge, let's execute that practically. Okay, let's use lsl on text.txt. Yeah, we can see that every user has all three permissions. Let's revoke the permissions of execute for others. So for that, let me use chmod, and as I am talking about others, I will specify o. And as I am revoking the permission, I will use minus. And as I am talking about the execution permission, I will use X, and followed by text. The file name or file path. As I am in the same folder, same directory where the text file is present, I will don't need to enter the entire path of the file or the folder. I can just use the name. So yeah, let me execute that. Yeah, it has executed without any errors. So let's check whether the execution has is success or not. Well, we are not able to see the changes. See, the reason behind we are not able to see the changes is because we are using WSL in order to work with Linux on the files or folders which are present on home directory of Windows, and that is the reason we are not able to see the respective changes. But if you want to see the changes, then you have to shift from Windows home directory to Linux home directory. So that for that, let me use cd, which takes me back to the entire path. Yeah, at this, let me use clear. Yeah, if I use ls, it says I have two folders and a file. So let's use ls hyphen l to know the respective permissions for tpt.txt file. So yeah, I am having read, write, and execute permission for owner, and read and write for group members, and only read permission for others. So let's revoke the write permission for the group members. So for that, let me use chmod and talking about group members, and I want to revoke the write permission for the file of tpt.txt. Yeah, we have run that command. Let's use ls hyphen l again, tpt.txt. Yeah, you can see that. Let me magnify that. Yeah, you can see that before executing the chmod command, we have write permission for the group users as well. But after executing the command, which is revoking the write permission for group members, we can see that respective results, that if you have the permission, then it will be represented by respective letter. But if you don't have the respective permissions, then it will be represented by hyphen. So yeah, we can see that we have revoked the right permission for the group members. With that, we have the knowledge of how to check what kind of permissions a particular file or folder has, and how to revoke or how to grant, how to change the particular permissions for user or group, or the user for as a owner or a group member or others. So if you want to change permission for user and group, combination of two kinds of users, then you have to mention a particular, their respective letters and the permission that we are talking, and whether you are revoking or granting. And again, we have to name the file. It sometimes could be of mess. Yeah, as we can see that I have revoked the permission, right, read permission for user and group. Yeah, what if I say that, we have a simpler command to work with, to grant or to revoke permissions for particular users. Well, yes, this is the command that I am talking right now. A simpler command. See, which is very similar to the previous command, but we are just replacing the part of whether we are talking about user or group or others, and whether we are revoking or granting permission, and whether we are talking about which kind of permission, with just simple digits and obviously followed by path. See, these digits have their respective significance. See, the very first digit talks about the permissions for the owner, and the second digit talks about the permissions for the group member, and the next digit, third digit, talks about the permissions, respective permissions for others. See, as we are aware that we have three kinds of permissions: read, write, and execute. These three kinds of permissions will take a particular digit, in the sense a numerical value. Read takes a value of 4, write takes a value of 2, and execute takes a value of 1. So if I say, or if I give owner with a value of 7, that means owner has the permission of read, write, and execute. In the sense, 4 plus 2 plus 1 is 7, and that is what we have represented here. And we can see that group user has the value of 6. That means group members has a read and write permission. Obviously, 4 plus 2 is 6, and that is what represented here. And yes, the others has a value of 4. That means the others only has the permission of read, not write and execute permission. So yeah, if you want to simply mention whether you are, what kind of permissions, whether you are revoking or granting, and if you want to mention permissions for all the users, all the three levels of users, then we can go simply with this kind of command. So let's use that practically. Yeah, here we are. Let me see that what are we have. So yeah, let me know about the permissions of tpt.txt file. So yeah, we have only write and execute permission for the owner, and only read permission for others. So let's grant chmod, let's grant read, write, and execute permission for owners, and only read and write permission for the group members, and only read permission for others on the text file text file tpt.txt. If you use ls and -l on tpt.txt, yeah, we can see the respective changes. That means we have all the three permission for owner, and only read and write permission for group members, only read permission for the others. So yeah, this is how we can change, and we are able to know what kind of permissions we are able to change the permissions